everyone, I'm Chirag and welcome to this video. In this video, I will talk about one of the S3 feature which is S3 Select. So let's understand what is S3 Select and what does it provide. So S3 Select allows you to execute SQL queries to filter the content and retrieve the subset of data on CSV, JSON or Parquet files located in the S3 bucket. S3 Select also works with files that are compressed with gzip and bzip too. The output format of the select statement is limited to CSV and JSON, and the console limits the amount of data returned to 40 MB. So whenever you are querying the data using AWS Management Console, the amount of data returned by whatever query will be limited to 40 MB. Now you might ask that how is S3 Select is different from Athena. So let's quickly have a look at few differences between the both. So here S3 Select is fairly different from Athena, which is a big data tool. One major difference is that S3 Select works on single object or a file, whereas with Athena you can query across multiple objects or multiple paths in the bucket. S3 Select is also limited to three clauses that are from, where and limit, whereas with Athena it supports wide and complex SQL clauses including joins, grouping and other constraints. However, both are serverless, so it minimizes the need to configure and manage the server. Finally, S3 Select can be integrated at runtime with applications. And on the other side, Athena is aimed at workloads like business analytics, reporting, analyzing large volumes, and so on. So these are few of the basic difference between S3 Select and Athena. Now, if we talk about the use cases for which we can leverage S3 Select, so there are multiple use cases where we can leverage S3 Select features, but here we will have a look at a very simple scenario for simplicity to understand it. Now, for example, let's consider there are multiple departments or branches in general, and there is a master file that contains the data with respect to all the departments or branches, and that master data file is located in the S3 bucket. Now, if each department wants to work on the data specific to their department from the master file, then in the usual scenario, each department will fetch the whole master file or download the file, and then they will filter the data with respect to their departments. Now, what exactly will happen here? Each department personnel will go ahead and download or fetch the whole master file, then they will filter the data to use it. Now this will add up cost for the data transfers and the time that goes into the data filter and additional storage on the client side. Now let's say if we want to achieve the same thing using S3 Select feature, then different departments or branches will be able to fetch the data that they actually need using SQL queries with conditions. So this will result in reduced storage, reduced data transfer cost, less effort and time that will go into data filters after downloading, right? And this is the beauty of S3 Select feature. So this is one of the use case that we just talked about, and it's a very simple use case. I have picked this use case just for the simplicity so that we can understand that how S3 Select could be useful in certain scenarios. Okay, now let's talk about the pricing. So the pricing for S3 Select is $0.0004 per 1000 request, and the additional data retrieval and data scan cost, which is 0.0007 and 0.002 per GB respectively. So this was enough theory. Now let's go to the AWS Management Console and do the hands-on with S3 Select. Okay, so here I am within S3 Management Console, and here I have this bucket that is S3 Select Demo CSV. And this bucket contains one file that is customer.csv, and the customer.csv looks something like this. It contains some random data like customer ID, January, age, annual income, spending score, and subscription. Okay, so now let's say we want to fetch the data where the subscription status of the customer is false. So how we can do this using S3 Select feature? So let's go back to the S3 Management Console. You need to select this file that is customer.csv, click on actions and select query with S3 Select. Now here we need to configure the input settings and the output settings. So input settings is all about the customer.csv file or the file that you have selected. So here we have the path, the size of the file. Under format, you need to select the format of the file. So in my case, it's CSV. But if you are dealing with JSON or Apache Parquet file, then you need to select your options accordingly. Then we have CSV delimiter. So in my case, it's comma. And then here we have this checkbox that says exclude the first line of the CSV data. And it says that enable this setting if CSV contains a header row. So in my case, I do have the header row. So I'm going to check this. Compression, it's none because I don't have any sort of compression. Then within output settings, it's like how we want to view the data. So I want to view the data in the CSV format, and I want the delimiter to be comma, or you can also select custom and add your custom CSV delimiter. Okay, so let's select comma. And finally we have this SQL query, the pre-populated SQL query that says select star from the S3 object with alias limit 5. Okay, so here is where we are going to type in our query. But apart from that, you can also add the SQL statements from the SQL templates. So you can copy it or you can append it. So here we are, and let's click on run SQL query. So here is the query results, and this is how it looks like. So the last column is about subscription, and we have age, spending score, and whatnot. Okay, now as I mentioned earlier, we want to add some condition and we want to filter that data based on that condition. So here we will add the where clause, and we will say alias dot subscription equal to false, and we will say run SQL query. So here, as you can see, here we have the result of all the customers who have subscription status as false, right? So similarly, you can add multiple conditions. So apart from this, there are certain limits that apply to S3 select, which are the maximum length of a SQL expression is limited to 256 KB, and another is a maximum length of a record in the input or result is 1 MB. So keep these limitations in mind while you are working with S3 select feature. Now apart from this, let's have a look at one more thing. So what if this option is unchecked? So here we are saying that we don't have the headers in the CSV file. So if this is unchecked and if I try to execute this query, so let's see what happens. So it's throwing an exception saying the column index at line 1 column 32 is invalid. Now while this option or this checkbox is unchecked, right, we have to refer the column using the numbers. What I mean by that, so this customer ID will be represented by _1, January will be represented by _2, and subsequently the subscription would be represented by _6 because that is the sixth column. Okay, so now if I want to execute the same query, then instead of the column name I have to use this numbering system. And now if I run this query, then you should be able to see the results. And in case if your CSV file have headers, then you can check this, and then let's see what happens if we still execute this query using _6 or the numbers. So it's returning an exception, right? So make sure while you have checked this, it means that your CSV file contains the header row. Then you can refer your columns using the column name. And in case you don't have this checked, then you need to refer the columns using those numbers. Okay, so keep that thing in mind. So guys, this is how you can use S3 select at the high level, and I hope you learned about S3 select feature. Until that time, if you want me to do tutorial on any use case or service, then please leave them below and I will try my best to come up with the tutorial as soon as possible. And if you have any queries or comments, then again please leave them below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and see you next time.